Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us from the True Stories collection. Amy suspends a lotus bloom. Can Nick stop her from doing that by responding with an Orim's chant? Okay, so this definitely would work if Amy's lotus bloom was coming off of suspend and Nick wanted to stop it then. The suspend ability includes a triggered ability that lets you cast the card when the last time counter gets removed. But if you respond to that triggered ability with an Orim's chant, then they, of course, would not be able to cast the suspended card. Since the lotus bloom couldn't be cast, it would stay in the zone it was in, i.e. the exile zone, forever. It also would not count as being suspended anymore. I talked about this in my video on how the 11th Doctor works with 0 mana value cards. But in the situation described in the original problem statement, Nick doesn't want to do that. He wants to respond to Amy suspending the lotus bloom. And this is not possible. For one, Orim's chant says that you can't cast spells. Any spells that were cast before Orim's chant resolves are unaffected. Some printings of Silence helpfully include this note in their reminder text, but I guess they stopped doing that so they would have more room to recycle the same flavor text 5 times. Silence is worded the same way as Orim's chant, so all the rulings from this video would apply to it as well. Usually I choose the simpler card for these examples, but I went with Orim's chant because that's the one that was seen play in the actual question. So anyway, it turns out there's another reason why this doesn't work. Suspending a card does not count as casting a spell. Officially, it's a special game action, similar to playing a land, and just like playing a land, it is not possible to respond to suspending a card at all. That said, there's another question involving these two cards that I think some people might be wondering about. So let's consider what would happen if Amy wanted to suspend a lotus bloom, but Nick had already played and resolved an Orim's chant earlier in the turn. Is this possible? At first glance, you might have said yes. After all, like we said before, suspending a card does not count as casting a spell. Now this is true, and it's true that Orim's chant does not stop you from taking other special actions, such as playing a land or unmorphing a face-down creature. However, have a look at the official CR text for suspend. You can only suspend a card if you could begin to cast it from your hand, which you would not be able to if someone had already resolved an Orim's chant. Therefore, Orim's chant stops not just casting spells, but also suspending cards too. Now, this is a tough one to assign a star rating to because it's super easy if you happen to know this rule, but impossible otherwise. And it's not obvious at all from just the text on the card or what suspend does that this would be an issue. So unless you had already come upon this ruling before, it's very unlikely for someone to get the correct answer. Another interesting fact is that you might have come upon this ruling before because it was relevant in Modern years ago, when Burn players who wanted to suspend a Rift Bolt and cast a spell during their turn would have to know the correct order to do these if their opponent had an Aethersworn Canonist out. As a challenge question to test your understanding, see if you can identify the correct order and why. You can find the answer in my DDR with a very funny number that has those two cards in the title. It's cool to see the same ruling become relevant again over 900 DDRs later. That's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.